Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We made it through another week. We're back for another new episode. I can't believe it's the weekend again. Time goes by so fast, you guys. But today I'm doing a movie review on When You Finish Saving the World, starring Finn Wolfhard and Alicia Bowe. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in a previous episode. I had said that I had wanted to see it. I have to pull these headphones back because it sounds weird. Um, I said that I wanted to see it. I don't think I fully reacted to the trailer, but I know I had mentioned it in one of my episodes. It might have been when did a movie review on the new Pinocchio movie because Finn Wolfhard voices one of the characters in that movie, and I kind of mentioned that he had another movie coming out that I wanted to see, and so it came out January 20th of this year, and then I was able to watch it on Apple TV. I don't know where else it's streaming at. You probably can buy it on YouTube. It might be on Amazon Prime. It's still a pretty new movie, so I don't think you're able to rent it yet. And I know it was in select theaters, although it wasn't in any theaters near me. So I just kind of had to purchase it on Apple TV to watch it. And I enjoyed it. I actually really liked it a lot more than I thought I would. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And then, in honor of it being Black History Month, I did want to kind of start doing some episodes about like Black TV shows or Black films or anything kind of having to do with that. So, um, at the end of the episode, I did want to talk a little bit about this new Michael Jackson biopic that they're working on. And there's been some like news that came out recently that, which is kind of, I don't know, to me, it's kind of exciting. I mean, you guys know, if you don't know already, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. I've had episodes where I talked about, Michael before. So I thought that'd be kind of cool to talk about. So you're going to have to stick around to the end to hear those news and hear me talk about it. But for right now, I'm going to start off with this movie review. We're going to get right into it. So, the movie is sort of like a coming of age story a little bit. It's written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, which is kind of surprising because I think most of us, if you are familiar with the name, you know that he's an actor. So I feel like most of us know him as an actor, but I didn't know that he was into directing and writing and everything. So that's kind of cool. I didn't even know that he did this book. So apparently it was an audiobook first and then they made it into a film. So I haven't heard the audiobook, so I have no idea if it's really different compared to the movie or anything like that. If anybody out there is listening to this or watches this and you guys knew about the book beforehand or anything like that, let me know what the differences were because I'm always like interested to see how filmmakers adapt a book into a movie because a lot of times they have to cut things out or they have to change things in order for it to work to be on screen. So I'm kind of interested in that. But yeah, so I watched the movie and I did enjoy it. It's, I guess you could say it's a little bit of a comedy. There's kind of some funny parts in it, but it's actually really, I would say it's kind of like more drama because it's like a coming of age story. So Finn Wolfhard plays a character named Ziggy Katz, and he's like, I want to say he's like 16 or 17. He's probably more like 17. So he's a high school student. Um, and it's just him and his parents, and you could kind of already tell like from the very beginning of the movie that there is some sort of disconnect between him and his parents. And so while both of his parents are there, the movie is more focused on the mom, which is played by Julianne Moore. And that was kind of part of the reason too why I wanted to see the film, because I know she's a really good actress. I feel like everything that she's been in, like she knows how to play a good role. Like even when she was in the Hunger Games and everything, if you guys remember that. Um, so I was like, okay, she's in this. I was like, I feel like this might be a pretty good movie. So she plays the mom. She plays Evelyn, and it's sort of, the movie sort of follows the journey of Evelyn and Ziggy, and for the longest times it seems like both characters are just going like separate ways because, like I said, of that disconnect. But then I think at some point in the movie you do kind of realize that, like, oh, maybe they're more alike than they realize or than you initially thought, and I think that's what made it kind of interesting. And just to preface this, I will be talking about things that actually happened in the movie, so there are spoilers in this review. And if you don't want to hear it, then you could kind of skip over it, or just watch the movie and then come back to this episode because all of my episodes are already uploaded. to Facebook as I live stream, and then I put them up on YouTube and Spotify and Anchor. So you can always go back to my episodes and listen. It's not a big deal. But just letting you guys know there will be spoilers in this. Um, so on Ziggy's end, so like I said, he's a high school student, and the big thing with him is like um, he's really into music, so he plays the guitar and everything, and he kind of has like this whole online presence. I don't, I guess you could say he's a content creator or whatever if you want to call it that, but he live streams kind of like what I do. And he performs these songs and everything to all these people that watch, and so he has like fans or viewers, and people tip him, so he, he gets money from it and everything. So this is like his thing. Like this is clearly like what he really cares about, right? Um, and so he has that going on, and outside of that, you can tell I was gonna say you could tell he doesn't really have much else going on outside of that, because in school, like of course he has people that he hangs with, but it seems like he kind of has one main friend that kind of is on the sidelines throughout the whole movie, and then his focus is really on this girl played by Alicia Bowe. Her name is Lila in the film, and so again, most of his story is like he's either trying to do music or he's thinking of ways to get this girl's attention and how he can get her to like him and all that kind of stuff. And so he kind of, lingers around her and her friends, and he tries to act like he knows what she's talking about and tries to get in on the conversation. So Lila is the type to talk about like politics 24/7. Um, she is really, she really cares about the environment. She cares about the world, about getting justice for people. She's like that type, which is not a bad thing. But, I think sometimes, especially with like younger people, sometimes it's like overboard to the point where it's like, okay, can we like talk about something else? Like we can, kind of like the title, like when you finish saving the world, which I just recently realized how that connected to the movie. Like when I was watching it, I didn't think about it till afterwards. But it's like, okay, we know there's a lot of things to do to straighten up the world, but like trying to focus on that 24/7 will drive you crazy because there's only so much that one person can do, right? So, but she's like really into that. Her friends are into that as well. And she's clearly like a intelligent girl, um, and probably the type to get like good grades in school and all that kind of stuff. But he's super into her, right? And when he hangs around her friends and everything, you can tell he's trying to act as if he's political. And there's, I think this is one of the first scenes we see with him and her and like her friends, and she's talking about politics. I don't remember the specifics, but he basically chimes in to be like, "Oh, well, I'm political too. Like I know about politics and I know what's going on in the world and all this kind of stuff, and I agree with you." And her friends, one of her friends calls him out, and she's like, "Well, what exactly do you agree with that she said?" And of course now he's like, "Oh shoot, like I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to impress this girl, right?" So he kind of goes off and starts talking about his music, and it literally no correlation, has nothing to do with what they were discussing. And they clearly can see that, and they're just kind of like, okay, like what are you talking about? And he has this really bad like tendency to bring up the fact that he plays music and that he has fans and he makes money off of it. Like I don't know how many times he says that in the film, and it's so cringy. It's kind of like embarrassing because it's like, okay, like we know you do music, but like you said that already. He's the type to kind of like brag about it because you can tell he doesn't know what else to say, which, like I said, he's a teenager and he doesn't know how to approach this girl. He doesn't know. Boys are clueless. So on one end I understand, but at the same time it's like, dude, like can you not do that? um so yeah, he kind of does that a lot throughout the film when he talks with her, and he's trying to relate to her, but it's not working. Like he's a little bit too clueless for it to stick. And she could see that, she's smart. She could see like, you're clearly not really into politics, but whatever. And then on the other end of it, when it follows, along with Evelyn's, she does work at a, I don't want to say, it's not a homeless shelter, but it's like a shelter or like a safe haven for women, who've been in abusive relationships, people who want to be safe basically. And so she kind of has a stressful job, I would say. She works in like social services basically, which is, that's not an easy thing to do, but she kind of runs a shelter basically, and she ends up meeting this woman and her son. They come in and they're just, they're like, I need a place to stay, like we want to be safe. Her husband I think it's her husband or her boyfriend or the baby daddy or whatever is like abusive and probably has been abusive for years, and she's finally trying to get away from him. And the son, Evelyn finds out that the son is same age as her son Ziggy, and you could tell she immediately like latches on to him, and tries to form this connection with him. And at first you think, oh, it's nice, like she's really trying to help them out. And she goes to talk to the son, and I believe his name is Kyle, I think, in the film, but she talks to him about college and everything, and like, what do you want to do when you get a little bit older? Like, if you want to go to college, like, there's scholarships, there's programs that we can get you into that will help you out financially, just so you have a good life and everything like that. And I think what she really latches on with him is because he's so attentive to his mom. And obviously, like, if he if he's the type of kid that grew up watching his mom getting beat or whatever, or getting mistreated, then yeah, you're gonna be a little different. Like, he clearly has a different upbringing than Ziggy does. Ziggy is like privileged. Um, he's kind of bratty, kind of a little bit, and he has like decent parents and stuff. Like, both of his parents are married, they get along fine. He didn't have to grow up the same way that this other kid did. And so this kid is much more like sensitive with his mom, and clearly like they're close and everything. And I think you could tell that like Evelyn immediately is like, why isn't my son like that? Like, I don't think she ever explicitly says that in the movie, but that's the feeling you get and the look that she gives when she's like, wow, like, your son is really great and really nice, and he seems like such a sweet boy. And she does all this like complimenting and everything, and clearly, like I said, you can tell that she's thinking like, oh, I wish my son was like that, or I wish, like, me and my son were close like that, or have that type of relationship. And what's crazy is like throughout the film, she's trying to do all this stuff for this kid. Like I said, kind of trying to maybe get him into some type of program for college and everything. And he, he's like, well, I'm good with cars, I'm good with my hands, so I kind of already know what I want to do. And she's trying to push him in a different direction. And maybe in some way she does mean well, but it's also trying to push this kid, who is not your kid, by the way. You're not related to him, you don't really know him like that. You're trying to push him into something that he doesn't really want to do. Um, and the whole time that I'm watching this happen, like the way that their relationship is, and it's a little weird at times because you could tell that she's overstepping and that she's kind of crossing these boundaries um, that I would say that maybe he didn't, like, the kid didn't set for her because he doesn't really know. But you could just tell she's doing a little bit too much, basically. And I'm just thinking, like, why are you not putting all of this energy into your own son? That's literally what I was thinking the whole time I was watching, like, the scenes with her and him. I'm just like, why are you not doing all this for Ziggy? Like, invest in what he wants to do, later in life. Is it music? Do you ask him about his music? Do you know if he wants to go to college or not? Are you willing to help him get into college if that's what he wants to do? Like, there's no discussion like that between her and Ziggy in the movie. And she's just doing all this for this kid. And again, nice gesture, you might mean well, but it's also like, this isn't your child. And so, it's a lot of like, it's kind of like misplaced, if that makes sense. So I just, like I said, the whole time I'm just like, why are you not pouring all of this into your own son? And that's part of the reason why there is that disconnect between Evelyn and Ziggy, I feel like. And I think some people that will watch it, they'll go, they'll try to take sides and be like, oh, well, I'm on Ziggy's side because the mom is this and that, or vice versa. They'll say, well, I'm on the mom's side because Ziggy is spoiled and he's this and he's that. But the thing is that they both have faults, they both have flaws. They both say and kind of do things that aren't really cool throughout the movie. So to me, it's not really taking one side. It's more so like, both you guys could be doing things to, like, become closer to each other. Or, and especially with Evelyn, because she is the mom, she is the parental figure. But I just, yeah, there's like missed opportunities in the movie. And by that I mean, for example, there's a scene in the movie where Ziggy asked Evelyn, his mom, to take him to school. And so they're riding in the car. And by the way, this is unrelated, but that car that she was driving in the movie, oh, I cannot stand those cars. They're so ugly and like small and tiny. I'm like, don't you feel claustrophobic in that? Like, why would you ride? Anyway, I don't know. That just irritated me every time there was a scene where she got in the car and she was driving off. I'm like, girl, get you a new car because this is not it. Like nobody want to ride in that. But anyway, um, there's okay. So Ziggy asks his mom like, can you take me to school? And they're riding in the car, and he actually asks her for advice. So he says like, like the kids at school, like, do you think I could be political like them? Because that's a lot of the stuff that they talk about. Do you think I could be that same way? And instead of using that opportunity to kind of bring them closer or to kind of, I don't know, like get them to do something together, she kind of turns it into a lesson and trying to like, I don't know, like it was just the way she went about it where I was kind of like, I think that wasn't necessarily the right thing to say. Again, I understand where she's coming from, like as she's the mom and everything like that, but she basically ends up telling him like, you can't just pretend to be somebody else just to impress these kids or to whatever, impress a girl, which is true. And she's like, I can't spoon feed you lines and tell you what to say because it's not genuine. Like you don't even know what you're saying. You would just be copying what I'm saying just to come off as cool or just so that you look like you're this way when you're not. And she's like, that's not the way to do it. Like you need to research, you need to like look into it yourself and everything like that, which again I agree with. um but I think it was kind of just like the way she went about it, and she kind of says something in the end that kind of puts him down. You could tell it like kind of hurts his feelings, or he feels some sort of way about it afterwards. So she tells him like, like when you were younger, I used to take you to like marches or protests or whatever, and back then like you really seemed into it and you would write songs about it, and now it's like you just don't care about anything. Like now you just don't care about anything but this music stuff, and you could tell that rubs him the wrong way. And again, I don't think that was the right thing to say. Like he was coming to you for advice, he's clearly asking you for help, and that's kind of what you say. Like he just kind of turned it into a lesson instead of being like, well, hey, like maybe we can go to the library together, check out some books, do some research. That way we could both kind of be up to date on what's going on around the world, and then you'll have something to say to your friends. Or the whole thing about, well, if you really want to be in with these kids, like why not just ask them? Why not go up to them and say, I'm like, I hear what you guys say or whatever, and it sounds interesting, and I don't know, like I want to know more about what you guys are talking about. Like, can you teach me, or can you kind of tell me a little bit more? Just something. I don't know. I just feel like she could have said something different than what she said. Because then he feels some type of way and he's upset, and he goes to school, and what does he do? He goes to his to the girl that he likes, Lila, and he's like, oh, well, like I'm really political too. Like my mom used to take me to protests and stuff like that. Like when I was really younger, like I went to all of them, and and it's like he don't even remember that. Like he's just saying that because his mom said that and he's upset, right? So that's what I was saying. Like in that moment, I was like, that could have been a good bonding moment for them, or it could have been something that they could have done together, and it, you know, kind of fumbled the bag there. So it was just like moments like that where you could see that there's a disconnect, and it's not so much because they're just so like opposite of each other, because I think they're both like, I would say they're both kind of stubborn. And a lot of times I think with, and it kind of speaks to like parent child relationships. I think a lot of times when you have two people that are stubborn like that, they clash, and then you tend to argue a lot. I've seen that before, and I know, I'm sure there's tons of people who could relate to that, especially when you're a teenager. God, like, all those different feelings and things you're going through as a teen, and then you have to deal with like high school and everything. Like, it's not easy, we've all been there. So, and then you have a crush on somebody, and it's like, that just like, I think even for boys too, it just really like heightens your emotions, right? So, and the thing with his dad too, like his dad is there, but it's very like, I don't know, it's like he's just there, I don't want to say like he's a bad parent or not a good dad, but he doesn't really seem that invested as well either. You know what I mean? Like I don't think any of them really genuinely had ever sat there and asked him about this, him doing music. And clearly he's been doing it for like a long time. And if that's the thing that he's really interested in, I would think as a parent, like you would want to know, like, okay, so you're interested in this, like, tell me more about this. Like, I want to know what you like, or I want to know what you're interested in. Because everybody wants that, whether it's from a parent or a friend or a partner. Like, you want people to be interested in what you're interested, or you want somebody to like ask you about it, you know what I mean? So I I think that's what Ziggy was wanting from his parents, or from his mom specifically, but without having to ask for that, if that makes sense. Um so yeah, it was like a good movie though. It was a cool like little dynamic that they had going on, and just the different little like themes they explored, like I said, about sort of like coming of age and dealing with like parent and child relationships, and then sort of, I guess you could sort of say, like a generational differences that were going on, because obviously he's, this is like modern time, so he's 17, and I don't know how old Evelyn is, but just differences like that. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty good story, so I would recommend watching it. If you do like those types of movie, you'll probably like it. It was I think distributed or produced by A24 Productions, and if you know like about movies, they're known to do like indie films. And then I think it was even at like the Sundance Film Festival when it first came out. So it's definitely like that type of movie, if that makes sense. It's not like one of those big mainstream movies. Like, the whole point of the movie isn't really to gain popularity or anything like that. I think it's more so about the message and what kind of like what the story and what the characters represent, I feel like. Um but yeah, and what I really liked about the, I guess, the ending too was, again, I'm spoiling this, so pause it or click out of it or go forward if you don't want to hear. What I really liked about the end was, it wasn't like, usually with movies I really really like a happy ending. Like, I'm that person that I'm like, if it doesn't end happily, I'm going to be upset. So in this one, it didn't really end happily, but it wasn't like horrible, if that makes sense either. It wasn't something that either of them can't come back from, if that makes sense. So they both were kind of going through it, Evelyn and Ziggy. So Ziggy, he ends up saying something really stupid to Lila, his crush, and he thinks that this is gonna win her over, and it does the complete opposite, and she gets upset with him, and he basically blows it with her, right? And so he's kind of like going through that, and then in the same time, the mom, she Evelyn gets approached by Kyle's mom. So this is the kid that she has this attachment to. His mom steps in and basically is like, this is my kid. I got it. I got it. Like, you don't need to do all of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically kind of like puts her in a place, which is kind of what she needed, to be honest. Like, she kind of needed that wake up call, I feel like. Um, and they have a little tiff about that, and so clearly after that she doesn't feel great, and I think there's a scene where she kind of like is in the car and she cries, and I think she realized too that, like, yeah, I was like doing too much, like I was pushing this kid, and that's not your child, like I said, and it's not even somebody that you really know that well. um and it's a lot of like misplaced energy and a lot of misplaced effort, and so um they have this moment, and then she's at work. Evelyn is at work, and she goes to her computer. And I knew as soon as she went to her computer, I knew that she was going to look up videos of Ziggy. Don't ask me why I knew. I just immediately knew that. But she types in his name on Google, and all these videos come up on YouTube of like Ziggy singing and, you know, being a content creator basically. And she's kind of like clicking through and watching them. And I don't know why, but that was kind of funny to me that she was like skipping the videos. I'm like, you're supposed to be watching your son and you're sitting there like skipping each video. But she's like, really trying to take an interest into what he clearly loves to do and what he's been doing for a while. And she's watching them. And then at the same time, Ziggy leaves school and he comes to his mom's job. And he's kind of looking around because I don't want to say he's never been there, but he probably hasn't been to his mom's job in a while, I'm assuming. And there's a scene too earlier in the movie where she does invite him to come and like help out and stuff, and he's kind of just like brushes it off. He's like, no, I'm gonna be busy. And so he comes and he's kind of like checking it out, and then I think eventually somebody that works at tells Evelyn like, oh, hey, your son is here, because she comes out of her office and they just look at each other, and there's no words. And I don't think it really needed that. Like, I don't think they needed to say I'm sorry or have this like unrealistic moment where they're like, oh, I love you, and they're crying and holding each other. Like, it didn't need to be that. Really, just him showing up to his mom's job when he was going through something, and her seeking out her son's videos when she's going through something really tells you, like, it tells, at least it told me everything I needed to know, that they clearly, um they're seeking out each other, like in a time of need or in a time of comfort. And like I said, you know, that Ziggy could have went to his dad. He could have called his dad, but nope, he went to his mom's job, and I think that was intentional. And same thing with Evelyn. She could have called her husband or talked to a friend or somebody at work, but instead she went to watch videos of her son. And I just, to me, that was just like, oh yeah, like it just made sense. You know what I mean? And so I actually really liked the way it ended. Where, like I said, it didn't really need to be some super unrealistic happy moment where they're falling into each other's arms, but it was also like to let the audience know that, like, yeah, they clearly love each other and care for each other, and um they're each other's like comfort, whether they really realize that or not. Like, not, again, I think it was like, I think it was intentionally wrote that way, but I also feel like for the characters it wasn't necessarily like, I don't know if it was really conscious. I think it was kind of just like, kind of with any with any like parent and child situation, if you're, especially when you're that young and you kind of go through something, you're like, I kind of want my mom right now. I think it's kind of like that. And then the mom is just like, with things kind of falling apart with this kid, I think she kind of realized too that, like, yeah, I need to just like connect with my son in this way instead of trying to connect with this kid that I don't really know, who's not my kid. So yeah, I like the way it ended. I mean, I know I'm telling you guys kind of like what happens, but I do recommend that you guys watch it for yourselves, and you guys can let me know what you think, or how you interpret it, or like what you got out of it. Because I know people watch movies and they see or feel different things compared to the next person. And then, if you have already seen it, leave a comment, or message me and tell me like what you thought about it, um, and yeah, just like, I don't know. And then, oh yeah, and tell me about the book too if you guys know. I might try to look it up, but I just feel like now that I've seen the movie, I don't really know if I want to go back and listen to the audiobook. But if somebody tells me that there's actually a lot of details left out of the movie that are in the audiobook, then I probably will go and try to check it out. I don't know if it's like a physical copy available. I think it might just be an audiobook. I could be wrong though, but I'm sure if you type in like Jesse Eisenberg, or when you finish the Saving the World book or something, it will pop up. So yeah, so that was the movie. Again, I watched it on Apple TV, but I think you guys can find it on YouTube maybe, or Amazon Prime, but you do have to purchase it because this is like a newer movie that just came out, so you would have to buy it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's available for rent on Apple TV at like February, middle of February sometime. So if you kind of want to save money and you just want to rent it instead of buying it, then you might have to wait until then. But I don't know if it'll be on like Netflix or Hulu or anything like that anytime soon. But if it is, then you guys will see it and you'll be able to watch it for free. But well, not free because Netflix and Hulu is not free, but you know what I mean. You'll be able to stream it, I guess. But yeah, that's that movie. And before I get into the next subject, or I should say the last subject, um, I did want to let you guys know that my podcast is sponsored by Stream Media. So thank you to Stream Media for sponsoring the podcast. The way I'm able to go live every week on Facebook with you guys is because I specifically use the Stream Studio. So they pretty much provide all of these cool little features for me, and not just for me, but really any content creator that works for them, or anybody that wants to do podcasting or live streaming. You'll get the same features that I get. Obviously on your guys' end, you can't see like what I'm seeing on my screen, but I am able to kind of customize, my name, my background, even down to like the beginning, the way when I live stream, I usually have some type of countdown going on just to kind of give me a moment to kind of like get things together and let you guys know that I'm about to start the episode. So just little things like that, that all comes from Stream Studio. So, if that sounds interesting to you and you want to check it out, or if you're a content creator and you're looking for a platform to be able to live stream and do your own videos, you could definitely check them out at studio.stream.com, and you need an email to get in. And once you put in your email, they'll get you a login code, and then you're in. And it's free. They do have plans. I believe they have some premium plans if you kind of want more, if you want access to more features, or you feel like this is something you're going to be doing maybe daily. You might want to look into that, but they do have a free plan. So maybe if this is something you kind of just want to try out, or um, you just would prefer to do a free plan, you could do that as well. So there really is no signing up. It's really just needing an email. So it's pretty easy, pretty quick and simple. And I would definitely recommend it myself because I use it every weekend. So I wouldn't lie to you guys if I didn't if I didn't actually use it, if I didn't like it. But anyway, I want to wrap up this episode. I don't want to keep it too long. So with this MJ biopic news, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I said this before, but I was not really looking forward to them doing a Michael Jackson movie. Now, as much as I love Michael, I just feel like anytime they try to do something to portray him, it always comes off wrong. You know what I mean? It to me, it always comes off as like they're just trying to be. It comes off as like a caricature of him, or like they're just trying to make fun of him, or something, like they get somebody that's not black to play him, and I just feel like that's weird. Um, so I was just like, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, like, do we have to do that? Like, can't y'all? And when I say y'all, I'm talking about his estate. I'm like, can't you guys come out with something else? Like, we would rather see like a documentary or something, like actual footage of him working on an album or creating music or doing, like doing the stuff that he did best. Like, why can't we just see stuff like that? Because I know there's footage out there that we haven't seen. So that was kind of where my head was at when I first heard about it. And I was kind of just like, okay, like, and just because the estate is behind it does not mean anything. Some people are like, oh, well, it's official. Like, it's going to be good because his estate is behind it. I'm like, if you're in the fandom, or if you've been in the fandom, you know that his estate is crappy. Okay. Like, sorry if anybody watches this that works for the estate, but like, y'all be doing him dirty for real. Um, so I wasn't excited about it, to be honest. I was just like, okay. But now we have good news, or at least I feel like it's good news. So they finally announced who will be playing Michael in this film. And this is a big thing. Again, like, are you gonna get somebody that's actually black? Or like, are you focused on trying to find an actor that kind of looks like him, or are you more focused on somebody that could dance and move like him and that could sing? Like, what is it? Because trying to get all three is really hard. And obviously the fact that like he had vitiligo, and so his skin color changed over time, it's like, are you getting somebody that's lighter? Are you getting multiple actors to play him in different eras? Like, what are you going to do? Because this is not an easy thing. But they finally announced it, and they said that Jafar Jackson is playing Michael in the movie. If you guys don't know who Jafar is one of Jermaine's sons. Okay. And Jafar can sing, by the way, and he's a cute kid. Well, I shouldn't say kid because he's not really a kid, but he's a cute guy. And he actually does like sort of resemble Michael in his younger days. I'm not gonna lie. So that came out. Everybody on the fandom was like, "What? Y'all getting a Jackson to play a Jackson? Like, let's go!" Like, I was actually pleasantly surprised by that. I didn't realize that his family was involved with the film, and that's another thing too. Like, when you're making those types of films, it's like you should really get intel, or get support from the family, like the people that actually knew him, and don't just make a film just to make it and try to get money and everything, because those types of films never turn out right. And I believe that somebody, I don't know if it's a producer or a director or a writer, somebody that was a part of the Freddie Mercury film that came out about Queen and stuff. Somebody that worked on that, I guess, is a part of this film too. So people are like, "Oh, well, if they did that movie, this is going to be really good." I haven't seen the Freddie Mercury movie, so I don't know, but it looked like it was good, to be honest. So I don't know. But these are all like good signs, I feel like. So that means if Jafar is a part of it, that means Jermaine is going to be, I feel like he's going to know about it. And if Jermaine knows about it, I'm pretty sure the other brothers, the other Jacksons will kind of know like what's going on as far as like filming and what they're actually putting in the film. So I feel like that's a good idea. And hopefully maybe even like his kids, like Michael's kids will kind of be in on it a little bit. I just feel like that would be so much better because they won't, Like if they're really involved, I feel like they won't let them come out with something that just stinks. You know what I mean? Um, and I say that too because if you guys remember, they did a mini series back in the 90s called The Jacksons: An American Dream. Now, that was phenomenal. That it's really long because it's a mini series, so it's like episode by episode, but it's really good. If you've never seen that before, watch it seriously. And they used to like air it on like BET and VH1 all the time, so I grew up like watching it and everything. And I would watch like the whole thing. Like I've seen it more than once. Angela Bassett is in it. She plays Katherine Jackson, and like the actors that they got to play Michael were really good. One of them passed away, unfortunately, but like, and I'm pretty sure the family was involved in that, like when they did that film, and it turned out to be really, really great. It's like a classic for real. So I'm just like, I'm hoping they kind of have that same energy, I guess, if they're going to be telling his story. Because trying to tell a story about Michael Jackson is like really hard because he was in the industry for a really, really long time and he had all these different eras. And like I said, he looked differently in each era. And, obviously a lot happened in his personal life. So trying to cover all that is going to be that's going to be huge. So I'm not sure if they're just focusing on one specific time in his life. I feel like that would probably be a little bit smarter than trying to cover from when he was like in the Jackson 5 all the way up until his death. So I don't know how they're going to do that, but I feel like if they're getting Jafar to play him, then they're probably going to cover like Michael, I'm assuming maybe during like Thriller era, like, when he was in his 20s and stuff, because that's kind of like what Jafar looks like to me. Um, so yeah, we'll see. But that was the big news that he's playing Michael in the film. So I honestly feel like he could do a good job. Apparently he said, I think he made like an Instagram post about it. Apparently he's been working on the film for like months now, like 6 months or something like that. So he seems to be pretty serious about it. If they're already doing like rehearsals and um, I mean, I have no idea like when the film will be done or when it'll be out. I don't know if that's been said, but they're clearly working on it. So, um, yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure there'll be more updates and stuff. You could follow like, the Jacksons on social media, or I believe you can get some type of subscription to like MJ's estate because I get emails. I don't remember how I got that, but it's probably some type of newsletter thing that you could sign up and they'll send you stuff if you are wanting to keep up with like film news and everything like that. And I mean, there'll be articles out about it too, but I think if you really want to be the first to know about it, like you probably would have to like subscribe to their newsletter or follow them on social media and stuff. So I recommend doing that if you want to know what's going to be going on. I guess in the next few months. So, but yeah, I think that could be. I feel a little bit better about it now. I guess I'm still not like 100% thinking, oh, this is gonna be such a fantastic film, but I'm thinking, it has potential to be good now. I didn't feel that way before, to be honest. So I guess we will wait and see. Um, it would be really cool if I can get somebody that works on the film as a guest on here, because then we could really talk about it and we could talk about like how it was to be filmed and the behind the scenes stuff and everything. Like that's something I would love to do. So, just putting that on the universe. If anybody watches this, that's, a part of the film and you're willing to come on the podcast, don't be afraid to hit me up. You can email me at Tiffany's TVscape@gmail.com. And that goes for anybody too. Anybody that wants to be a guest. I kind of have that email for, inquiries or anybody that wants to leave me feedback or has questions or concerns or just, you just want to get into contact with me and, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So, yeah. And then the other thing too, of course, is to follow me on social media. You can follow me. I would appreciate if you guys followed my page, my podcast page on Facebook, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can follow me on Twitter if you like, although I don't really post about the podcast on there as much. I did create a specific, like a separate Twitter for my podcast, but there isn't really much on there yet because I just recently did it. So you can follow me on there too as well. But I would say mainly follow me on Facebook or YouTube, and then you can I think you can subscribe to my Spotify as well too. Like if you're more of an audio listener, then then if you don't want to watch the videos and you just want to listen, you can listen to me on Spotify or Anchor. But check out my podcast page on Facebook because that's probably what I'll be focusing on a little bit more going forward. That in my YouTube, I would say. Um, but yeah, like I said, I didn't want to make this episode too long. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys for tuning in and for watching. And if you're new to the podcast, hi, hello, thanks for tuning in. Um, and yeah, I don't specifically have the subject of the topic that I want to talk about, like I said, for Black History Month, but I do know that I want to talk about like some Black films or Black TV shows, or even like Black directors or writers or anything like that. It doesn't have to be like actors, but I do kind of want to do that, I think, for this month. So if you guys have recommendations of like TV shows or films that you want me to talk about, it doesn't have to be current. It could be something old too, or something that you grew up watching that you felt like was really impactful or anything like that. Like, let me know because I will definitely, talk about, especially if I'm a fan of it as well. And but yeah, that's what I want to do kind of going forward for the rest of February. So stay tuned for that. That I feel like that will be fun. I think that should be pretty good. And yeah, I will see you guys next weekend. Bye bye.